Welcome back to another transformative episode of Journey to Success. I'm Emily Carter, your host, and today we're diving into a topic that's the backbone of any meaningful achievement: building good habits. Joining us is an exceptional guest, Dr. Daniel Foster, a behavioral scientist, best-selling author, and sought-after coach who's helped thousands create routines that propel them toward their goals. Daniel, it's an absolute joy to have you with us today.
Thank you, Emily. I'm genuinely thrilled to be here and explore a subject that's not just about discipline, but about designing a life of purpose and impact.
I'm so excited to hear your insights. Habits shape so much of who we are and what we accomplish. Daniel, let's start with the big picture. Why is building good habits so crucial for success, and how do they transform our lives?
That's a fantastic question, Emily, and it really captures the essence of why habits are so powerful. Habits are the invisible architecture of our lives. They're the small, repeated actions that, over time, determine our health, wealth, relationships, and happiness. Unlike goals, which are fleeting milestones, habits are the systems that sustain progress long-term. When you build good habits, you're not just chasing outcomes. You're becoming the kind of person who naturally achieves them. I think of someone like Warren Buffett, one of the world's most successful investors. Buffett's habit of reading for hours daily, up to 80% of his day, has fueled his ability to make billion-dollar decisions with clarity. He once said, "I just sit in my office and read all day." That routine, compounded over decades, built his empire. Early in my own journey, I was a struggling researcher in Chicago, juggling deadlines and feeling scattered. I was ambitious but inconsistent. When I started studying habits, Buffett's reading, among others, I realized I could design routines to match my goals. I began small, like reviewing my priorities each morning, and it transformed my productivity, leading to my first book and coaching career. Habits don't just help you succeed, they shape who you become.
That's such a compelling way to frame it. Daniel, habits as the architecture of our lives. Buffett's reading habit is mind-blowing. You mentioned starting small yourself. Can you walk us through how someone can begin building good habits, especially if they've struggled with consistency before?
Absolutely, Emily. The first step is to start tiny. Many people fail at habits because they aim too big, like running a marathon when they haven't jogged in years. Instead, make the habit so small it's laughably easy. I draw inspiration from James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, who calls this the 2-minute rule. Want to read more? Start with 2 pages a day. Want to exercise? Do 2 push-ups. The goal is to build the behavior's identity, becoming someone who reads or someone who moves. When I wanted to write my first book, I was overwhelmed, thinking I needed hours daily. Clear's advice changed me. I committed to writing 2 sentences every morning. Some days, I'd write more, but even on crazy days, 2 sentences felt doable. Within a year, I had a 300-page manuscript. I coached a client named Sarah, a nurse who wanted to meditate for stress relief but never had time. We started with 2 minutes of deep breathing daily. She laughed at how simple it was, but soon she was meditating 20 minutes, sleeping better, and handling shifts with calm. Tiny habits build momentum, rewiring your brain to crave consistency. Another key is to tie habits to cues. This comes from B.J. Fogg, a Stanford behavior scientist. Link your new habit to an existing routine, like brushing your teeth or making coffee. I tied my morning priority review to my first sip of coffee. Now it's automatic. I worked with a client named Michael, a salesman who wanted to exercise but kept skipping the gym. We linked 5 squats to his evening shower routine. Within months, he was hitting the gym regularly and ran his first 5K. Cues make habits stick by anchoring them to your day.
I love the simplicity of starting tiny. Daniel, Clear's 2-minute rule and Fogg's cues are so practical. And Sarah's meditation story shows how small steps lead to big changes. But what about when life disrupts our routines, like travel, illness, or stress? How do you keep habits going then?
Oh, Emily, disruptions are the ultimate habit killers, but they don't have to derail you. The key is resilience through flexibility. Instead of aiming for perfection, focus on minimum viable habits. I learned this from Ariana Huffington, founder of the Huffington Post, who prioritizes sleep and mindfulness even on chaotic days. When traveling, Huffington might do a 1-minute meditation instead of 20, but she never skips it entirely. That consistency keeps her grounded. During a hectic book tour, I couldn't write my usual 500 words daily, so I dropped to one sentence in my phone's notes app. It kept my writing streak alive, and I finished the tour with new ideas. Another strategy is to plan for obstacles. Anticipate what might throw you off, like a busy week, and have a backup. I coached a client named Jessica, a teacher who wanted to journal for mental health but struggled during grading season. We looked at Michelle Obama, who fits workouts into packed schedules by keeping sneakers handy for quick walks. Jessica planned a microjournal, one sentence before bed when time was tight. It sustained her habit, and she now journals daily, crediting it for her calm under pressure. Finally, forgive slip-ups. Perfectionism kills habits. Serena Williams, despite her 23 Grand Slams, has lost matches but never let setbacks define her. She says, "I just keep going. I slipped on my priority reviews during a family crisis, missing a week. Instead of quitting, I restarted the next Monday." Slip-ups are data, not failure. Use them to adjust, not abandon.
Those are such smart strategies, Daniel. Huffington's minimum habits and Serena's resilience really bring it home. You've mentioned amazing figures like Buffett and Clear. Are there other famous examples whose habits inspire your approach?
Oh, definitely, Emily. The world is full of habit masters we can learn from. Take Maya Angelou, the legendary poet and activist. Angelou wrote daily, even renting hotel rooms to focus, producing masterpieces like I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Her habit wasn't just writing. It was showing up consistently, no matter the chaos. I adopted this for my research, setting a daily thinking hour to brainstorm. It led to breakthroughs in my work. I coached a client named David, a musician who felt creatively blocked. Inspired by Angelou, he committed to 10 minutes of songwriting daily. A year later, he released an album that hit local charts. Another is Benjamin Franklin, who tracked 13 virtues, like temperance and industry, in a daily journal to build character. His disciplined habits shaped America's founding. I used Franklin's method when coaching a client named Olivia, a startup founder drowning in tasks. She tracked 3 habits: planning, delegating, resting, in a notebook. Her company doubled revenue, and she credits that clarity. Then there's Kobe Bryant, whose Mamba mentality was built on relentless habits. Bryant woke at 4 a.m. to train, outworking everyone. His 5 NBA titles prove habits trump talent alone. I worked with a client named Ethan, a student who procrastinated on studying. Kobe's discipline inspired Ethan to set morning study blocks. He graduated top of his class. These icons show habits aren't glamorous. They're gritty, repeatable choices that compound into greatness.
Those stories are so inspiring, Daniel. Angelou, Franklin, Bryant, they all show habits as the engine of excellence. What are common mistakes people make when trying to build habits, and how can we avoid them?
Great question, Emily, because pitfalls can trip up even the best intentions. One big mistake is relying on willpower. Willpower fades. Studies show it's like a battery that drains daily. Instead, design systems, as James Clear suggests. I used to rely on motivation to exercise, but I'd skip workouts when tired. Now, I lay out gym clothes the night before, removing friction. I coached a client named Rachel, a lawyer who wanted to read more but forgot. We set a system: books by her bedside, phone off. She's read 20 books this year. Systems beat willpower every time. Another trap is changing too much at once. People try to overhaul their lives, diet, exercise, work, all in January. It's overwhelming. Tim Ferriss, the productivity guru, advocates minimum effective dose, one habit at a time. I made this mistake, trying to meditate, write, and run simultaneously. I crashed. Now, I focus on one habit quarterly. I taught this to a client named Chris, a chef who wanted better health. Instead of dieting and gymming at once, he started with 10-minute walks. He lost 30 pounds over a year. Slow builds sustainability. Finally, ignoring rewards kills habits. Charles Duhigg, author of The Power of Habit, says rewards reinforce behaviors. I used to grind without celebrating, burning out. Now, I reward habit streaks, a coffee date after a writing week. I worked with a client named Anna, a writer who struggled with consistency. We added rewards, like a movie night for 10 writing days. Her first novel's done. Avoiding these traps, over-relying on willpower, changing too much, skipping rewards, sets you up for habits that stick.
That's such a wake-up call, Daniel. Systems over willpower and Ferris one-at-a-time approach. I'm rethinking my own habits. How do we sustain good habits long-term, especially when life gets busy or motivation wanes?
Sustaining habits is like nurturing a plant. It needs steady care but thrives with the right conditions. One key is stacking habits, tying new behaviors to old ones. Duhigg calls this a habit loop. Cue, routine, reward. I stacked my evening reflection onto brushing my teeth. It's now automatic. I learned from Tony Robbins, who stacks morning rituals, exercise, gratitude, visualization for peak performance. I coached a client named Lauren, a mom who wanted to plan better. She stacked a 5-minute planner check onto her kids' bedtime. Her days became smoother, and she launched a side business. Stacking embeds habits into your life. Another strategy is tracking progress. Jerry Seinfeld famously marked a calendar with an X for each writing day, building a don't break the chain streak. I track my habits in a journal, writing, meditation, calls with family. Seeing streaks motivates me. I taught this to a client named Mark, a salesman who skipped networking. He tracked daily outreach emails, hitting 100 days straight, doubling his clients. Tracking turns abstract habits into tangible wins. Also, adapt habits to seasons. Life changes, new jobs, kids, moves, so tweak routines without guilt. Sheryl Sandberg, former Meta COO, adjusts her priorities as demands shift, staying productive. When I became a dad, my hour-long workouts became 20-minute home sessions. They still work. I coached a client named Emily. Yes, your name. A teacher whose grading load spiked. We scaled her reading habit to 10 pages nightly. She finished 15 books last year. Finally, connect habits to identity. Clear says, every action is a vote for the person you want to be. I'm not just writing, I'm a writer. This mirrors J.K. Rowling, who wrote daily despite rejections, becoming the author we know. When motivation dips, I ask, what would a writer do? It pulls me back. These strategies, stacking, tracking, adapting, identity, build habits that endure life's chaos.
Those are such vibrant tools, Daniel. Stacking like Robbins, tracking like Seinfeld, identity like Rowling. It's a roadmap for success. As we close, what's one final piece of advice for listeners ready to build good habits today?
My biggest advice is to choose one tiny habit and act now. Habits don't require grand gestures, just consistent ones. Think of Jeff Bezos, who built Amazon by starting small, selling books from a garage. His habit of experimenting daily grew a trillion-dollar company. For me, those 2 sentences a day sparked a career I love. One last story. I coached a single mom named Sophie, a cashier who dreamed of fitness but felt stuck. She doubted she could change. We looked at Oprah Winfrey, whose daily walks evolved into a health empire because she started where she was. Sophie began with 2 minutes of stretching each morning. A year later, she's running 10 Burmese chats and mentoring coworkers. If Sophie can build habits, so can you. Pick one action, read a page, walk a block, plan a minute. Start today, and you're already the person you want to be.
What a perfect note to end on, Daniel. Sophie's story, alongside legends like Bezos and Oprah, shows habits are for everyone. Thank you for sharing such profound wisdom and practical steps. I know our listeners are ready to build routines that transform.
Thank you, Emily, and to all the listeners. I hope you feel empowered to craft habits that shape your dreams into reality.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Journey to Success. If this episode inspired you to take action, and I'm sure it did, please hit that subscribe button to catch every transformative insight. Share this with someone who needs a habit boost, and join us next time for more strategies to fuel your journey. Until then, keep building one small habit at a time.